Here we are, Real Recovery Talk. I am your host, Tom Conrad. In today's episode, it is just me. First things first, thank you for tuning in on the podcast app, whichever one that you choose to use, and thank you for watching on YouTube. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you could always reach us, info@realrecoverytalk.com. Again, that's info@realrecoverytalk.com. And ultimately, we want to help you turn your mess into your message. Also, go to realrecoverytalk.com/guide. There, you are going to find PDF downloadable guides, and you just pick which one that you want to download. There should be 4 of them up there now. They're actually assessments. I think 3 of them are assessments. One of them is 5 steps to get your loved one the help that they need. But then we added some. So I encourage you, go to realrecoverytalk.com/guide to check out what those are, and they can help you. They're good. They're assessments. A couple of them are for addicts, and I think 2 of them are for families and loved ones of addicts. So go there, check it out, realrecoverytalk.com/guide and realrecoverytalk.com/reconnect. There you can get integrated into our Family Reconnect program. That comes with bi-weekly Zoom calls with myself, Ben, or Dr. Tambini, primarily myself. And basically, you get to spend time with me. I give you a curriculum. I really have you, I challenge your way of thinking. I challenge the way that you've been doing things in the past and what we can do moving forward. So I'll take whatever your situation is and navigate that with you to hopefully get the ultimate outcome, which is get your loved one the help that they need. I think that's it. So I wanted to come on here and talk about something that has been kind of prevalent over the past couple of weeks. I've had some interesting conversations with families and loved ones in particular, and I said, well, I'm at the office here. I'm all by my lonesome, just doing some computer work, and I came across a message on my computer, and it was a mom, and she, in the text message, said, I don't know what to do. And so we ended up getting on the phone, and I talked to her and I let her know, you have a few options, and I went over those options with her. So, which prompted me, I'm like, this would probably be a good podcast to record, but I'm tweaking it a little bit. See, because this mom, she has done one of the 3 options that I'm about to lay out. And so she's doing one of them, and, we're going to get her son into treatment and do what we do best, get him clean, get him sober so he can go live his life and have fun and enjoy sobriety. Young kid too, 22 years old. But I tell you what, he is really doing a number on himself and his family at 22. Pretty sad. IV user, fentanyl, of course, and been in and out of treatment. But I think that we're going to be able to make some headway with this young man. I was lucky enough to have a conversation with him, and I think I'll be able to help him. So I wanted to go over these 3 options. This is going to be relatively short. I'm going to try and keep this under 20 minutes. So if you're a family member and you are, or you're a loved one, maybe it's your aunt, your uncle, your cousin, your sister, your brother, your mom, your dad, grandma, grandpa, your best friend, your partner, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, I don't know. It's somebody close to you, somebody that you hold near and dear to your heart. You find out that they are struggling with addiction. You have 3 options, essentially. And these are very basic. And but once we go into them, you're going to understand why you only have 3 options. Option number 1 is to do nothing. And this is oftentimes what a lot of people do. And it's unfortunate because it really makes things worse. I had a conversation not long ago with a family. They signed up with us, and I have the privilege of getting to kind of walk them through this process. They have somebody in their family that's struggling with addiction. And so I have, like I just said, I have the opportunity to be able to navigate this with them and hopefully, get the loved one some help, whether it's with me or somebody else. Point is, one of the three, so there were three people on this call. It was a Zoom call. We do them every 2 weeks. And one of the three people, I find out, doesn't necessarily believe in addiction. And I posted something on my Instagram. If you don't follow me on Instagram, you can go to Real Recovery Talk Tom. There you're going to find me. And I post a lot of obviously addiction-based stuff there. So this guy says, I don't believe in addiction. I don't believe addiction is a real thing. I believe that it's really about willpower. So I said to him, okay, that's totally cool. And I'm going to tell you, there was a lot of takeaways from this conversation for me. I said, if you don't, and I've used this tactic before, if you don't believe in quote unquote addiction, what would you call it? In one word. And he was kind of stumbling, and I said, I'll help you out. How about unwillingness? And he said, yeah, sounds good. So I said, okay, we're going to go with that. Every time I use the word addiction, I want you to think of the word unwillingness. Okay, cool. So, because at that point, I understood, okay, he's going to be tough because he's the one, and I had an hour and a half conversation with this family, and he was I'm not placing blame on him at all. But he really didn't do anything. He's kind of the one that knew that addiction was there, but because he didn't believe in addiction, he thought he could handle it himself and essentially did nothing. And what ended up happening is years go by and the addiction, in fact, gets worse. So we're having this conversation. And I said to him, okay, addiction / unwillingness, I don't personally care what we call it. You can call it whatever you want. You can call it unwillingness, lack of will to change, orange creamsicle. I don't care. Call it whatever you want. Doesn't take away from the fact that the signs and the symptoms are still there. Label it whatever you want. But the way that this person is acting is addictive behavior. This person is incapable of controlling their use despite negative results. And I have this conversation with them. We're on the phone for an hour and a half, and that's what their time slot's allotted for, an hour and a half every 2 weeks. And at the end of the conversation, he was more towards, it's not about taking sides, but he understood where I was coming from because I was able to kind of paint a picture for him of what potentially could happen if we don't handle this appropriately. And it was great. Now, what I took away from that conversation, which is really cool because every time I have conversations with parents, loved ones, addicts, people in recovery, whatever the case, I tell everybody, I'm a student too. I may be the professional in the sense of this conversation. You're seeking my guidance and X, Y, and Z. But just to let you know, I am also a student. Every interaction, every experience that I have, every conversation that I engage in, I am still a student. I'm constantly learning more and more about how to navigate addiction. And so what I took away from that conversation was meet people where they are at. I jotted it down, and I have a notebook over there I like to take notes in, and I wrote it down, meet people where they're at. Because I could have met this guy where he says, I don't believe in addiction. And I could have came right at him. And, well, if you don't believe in addiction, then what's the point in us even having this conversation? And you have to believe what I say, yada, 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 all the things. But that wasn't the approach that I took. I met him where he was at. I listened to him. I let him talk. And we had a very fruitful conversation. That was a little bit of a rabbit trail. All that to say, this is an example of somebody that kind of put his head in the sand. And the denial was so thick that he did nothing. He literally did nothing. Almost nothing, to the point of highly enabling. He thought he could fix it himself. So that's option number one. Option number one, keep your head in the sand. Pretend like it's not there. Don't do anything about it. And I can guarantee you, and I don't make many guarantees, but if you choose to take option one, which is put your head in the sand, things are going to get worse. And they're going to get worse, and they're going to get worse, and they're going to get worse. And in this day and age, we don't have the luxury of being able to just hope that it works its way out. It works its way out. We don't have that luxury. Fentanyl's everywhere. It's not a good thing. So option number two, if option number one is put your head in the sand, then option number two, of course, is you can assist them in their sobriety in some capacity. Now, assisting somebody is exactly how it sounds. Assisting them. You're not doing it for them. You're assisting them. What does that look like? Have open conversation with them. And I've talked about this so many times on the podcast, do not enter into a conversation emotionally charged. Now, if I'm talking to you, mom, dad, whoever, I understand it's very difficult for you to not be emotionally charged, especially after your loved one, who knows, stole from you, got a DUI, crashed a car, who knows, overdosed. The list goes on. But you have to really do your best to not be emotionally charged entering into a conversation. So that's the very first thing that you need to do, is you have to be open and willing to have a conversation with them and do a lot less talking. This isn't your time to just puke out all of your feelings, all of your thoughts, all of your emotions. This isn't the time to point fingers and play the blame game. This is an opportunity for you to approach them in a very loving, kind, compassionate way. Hey, I'm noticing these things. X, Y, and Z, whatever those are. I'm concerned for your well-being. Your actions are doing this to our family. You're an adult. If you're listening to this, you're an adult. You know how to have a conversation, probably. If you don't, well, reach out to me and I'll help assist you in having this conversation, or maybe I'll have it myself. But you have to have a conversation that isn't combative, it's not emotionally charged, there's no anger involved. And listen, you shut up and you let them talk. Now, when you're having this conversation, don't have this conversation when they are totally inebriated. Have it maybe when they're hungover, when they're withdrawing, or even if they're a little buzzed or whatever. But if they're nodding out or whatever the case is, or they're stumbling drunk, obviously that's not the time to have the conversation, because they're probably not going to remember what the hell you said anyway. So you start off, have the conversation. Do not take what they say as gold. They're going, and I did it. I've done plenty of episodes on this too. They're going to try and manipulate their way out of whatever it is. If you're suggesting treatment, they're going to try and tell you why they don't need treatment. If you're suggesting meetings, they're going to tell you why they don't need meetings. If you're suggesting anything of the sorts, they're going to probably tell you why they don't need that. And they're going to come up with some sort of plan in their own head. But I need to say this part loud and clear. If you are in any position of authority, and I'm not just referring to parents and children, I'm talking about spouses, wife and husband with children, anything. If you're in any position of authority, and what I like to tell people to do is find your leverage points. Start figuring out what these leverage points are. You have the conversation, you at least plant the seed. Hey, listen, I'm picking up on this. I know what's taking place here. I'm suggesting this, that maybe we explore treatment options, so on and so forth. Start figuring out where the leverage points are, because chances are you're going to need these leverage points down the road. It may be tomorrow. It may be a week from now. It may be a month from now. Depends on the severity of the addiction as to how fast we move through this process. And when I say leverage points, I mean, if you're a mom and you have a child that's struggling with an addiction, whether it's an adolescent child or an adult child, if you're paying for things, that's a leverage point. If they're living with you, that's a leverage point. If they drive your car, that's a leverage point. If they have children and you watch their children, that's a leverage point. If you're a husband and a wife, and your husband's an alcoholic and you have children, that's a leverage point. If employers, that's a leverage point. Basically, what I'm saying is figure out all the things that this addict utilizes or they cherish. It may be their children. It may be their relationship with you. If they're a child, well, they need a place to live. They can't afford to live on their own. If it wasn't for you, they wouldn't have a roof over their head. They wouldn't have food on the table. They wouldn't have a car to drive, so on and so forth. So figure out what these things are. That way, when time comes and now it is go time, okay, we had the conversation once before or twice before, 3 times before, whatever, and you chose to continue doing things your way. Now things are going to go my way. I'm taking your car. I'm taking your cell phone. I'm throwing you out of the house, yada, yada, yada. This is called more the tough love approach. I mean, I'm just taking a very long approach and breaking this down. When you're able to do this, once you do it, you step back and you say, okay, we're going to pretend his name's Johnny and he's your son. Johnny, I'm going to give you 3 hours to make your decision. 2 hours, 1 hour, whatever. I wouldn't extend it any longer than a few hours. So I'm going to give you 3 hours to make your decision. If you don't have your decision made in 3 hours, everything that I said that I'm going to do, I'm going to do. Now, I know that I haven't been able to hold my boundaries in the past, but God rest my soul, if I don't have a decision from you in 3 hours, this is going to happen. Now, Johnny, you could do one of two things. You can think that I'm bluffing, or you can actually do this. That's your choice. You can assume or think that I'm bluffing and that, oh, she's not going to do anything. She's always says this, and I'll just deal with it as it comes. Or you can go to treatment or whatever it is that you have figured out you're going to do. And that's it. You step back. Okay, clock has started. You have 3 hours. I'm going to go do whatever. I'm going to go cook dinner. I'm going to go walk the dog. I'm going to go watch Love is Blind. Whatever. I don't know. I don't care. Do something. And don't engage in conversation. He's going to come to you. Mom, can't we talk about this more? Mom, I think I have a plan. I think this is something, I have something that I think might work, yada, yada. No, nope. You know where I stand with this. We now are at 2 hours and 15 minutes. Unfortunately, this is the type of approach that we have to take sometimes. And it sucks. It's painful because, it's somebody that we love, but you love them from afar and you kill them up close. If you can't do this, things never change. And if things never change, you're going to end up having, unfortunately, somebody dying. And I see it way too often. So once you step back and they make their decision, one of two things are going to happen. Either they're going to decide to take the help and they're going to engage in treatment or whatever it is, preferably treatment, or they're going to try and call your bluff. And this is a very pivotal moment. If you set boundaries and you cannot uphold those boundaries, shame on you. Because the more that you go back on what you say, the harder it's going to be to get them to get help down the road. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with parents that say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and they don't do it. And weeks, months, years pass by, and it's the same thing. They keep kicking the can down the road. Oh, I can't throw him out, Tom. I just can't. Tom, I can't take his cell phone from him. Tom, what if he die? I hear it all the time. What if he's homeless and he dies? Well, that's going to happen. But the thing is he's going to die in your house. He's going to die in his bedroom. You're going to walk into his bedroom one day and you're going to find him overdosed. These are true stories. I've seen this happen. All because you didn't have the guts, you didn't have the balls to tell them you don't have a place to live anymore. I'll tell you what, there's nothing harder than having a conversation with a parent that they look back on the situation and they think to themselves, I should have done X, Y, and Z. I should have been more harsh. I should have been able to hold those boundaries. I've had those conversations with people. It's not fun. I don't ever say I told you so, but I'll tell you I'd be lying if I said I didn't think it. You have these conversations with them, and if they choose to call your bluff, you need to act, and you need to act right now. Okay, I'm sorry. You got to go. Start hiking down the street, whatever it is. I don't know. Go find the nearest homeless shelter. Go find the nearest bridge. Grab a tarp out of the shed because you're going to need it. And that's what's going to have to happen. Now, every situation, every scenario is different. Obviously, I'm using an example of a mother and a son. Find your leverage points. Figure out what it is that you can hold over their head, unfortunately, because oftentimes this is what you have to do. Now, the third option is obviously seek professional help. Now, seeking professional help kind of encompasses everything, and I would consider myself professional help. You can bypass option 1, you can bypass option 2, and you can just go to option number 3, which is seek professional help, whether it's myself or anybody else. You get a hold of us and you tell us the situation, the scenario that you're dealing with. It's my job to take everything, and I'm going to probably be on the phone with you for a very long time because I want to know everything. I want to know when they started using, how much do they use, where do they get their resources to use, who do they live with, do you have children, do they have children? Any question that I can come up, what I'm doing is building a case. I'm figuring all this stuff out so I can come up with a good plan for you. This is the best option. And the reason that this is the best option is because in option number 2, it's assist in their sobriety. And you go to them and you say, Johnny, I need you to go to treatment. And Johnny says, okay, I'll go to treatment, but you don't know where to send Johnny for treatment. And now you have to figure out where he's going to go. Well, Johnny's going to change his mind. So option number 3 is going to be the best one. Call somebody, figure out who you can talk to that's a professional in this field. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up with a plan with you. Everybody's included in this plan. Myself, you, the family members, them, the addict. And we're going to say, okay, these are your treatment options. We're going to have maybe 1, 2, 3 treatment options lined up. That way, when you can go and have this conversation, the treatment options are already lined up. We know where you're going, when you're going, and how you're getting there. Johnny, there's no room for negotiation here. Like I told you, we got 3 hours. The clock starts now. I already have everything lined up. I have the flight booked. I have your bag packed. All you have to do is say yes. That's going to be your best option. It takes the guesswork out. And do not try and think that you can outsmart your addict loved one. Don't think that you can outsmart them, because I guarantee you can't. Addicts, alcoholics are very resourceful. They are very manipulative. They know what to say, when to say it. They know the reaction that they're trying to get. They know the response that they're trying to elicit, exactly when they need to hear it. They know what to say. They know what to do. They've been down this road plenty of times before. And trust me, I speak from experience. I've been there, done that. Had my dad had the information that I'm giving out for years now, if he had this information years prior to me getting sober, I would have gotten sober long before I did, because I wouldn't have had a choice. Now, of course, when you enter, if, Johnny goes into treatment and he decides he doesn't want to stay sober even after completing treatment, well, we just start the whole cycle over again. And unfortunately, that's part of the process. Not everybody gets clean and sober after their first time in treatment or after the first time walking into an AA meeting. That's just the nature of the beast. I'm not going to sit here and tell you otherwise. But at least they're out of your house. At least you get to sleep at night knowing that they're safe, that they're in some form of the recovery process. I hope that helps. Again, it's not hard. This whole thing, people tend to overcomplicate it, especially, parents and loved ones, because you're compromised. I understand you're emotionally compromised. I say this all the time, and I'm very open about this. My children are 8, 6, and 4, soon to be 9, 5, and 5. 9, 7, and 5. It's hard to believe. And how will I act? How will I respond if and when I am put in this position? I do not know. I can't predict the future. But I do like to think that I'll know how to handle it. And I will tell you the number one thing out of those 3 options, hands down, what I will do is I will seek professional help, because I can't, even myself, this is what I do for a living. This is what I've been doing for many, many, many years at this point. I've helped thousands of families. I've helped thousands of people get sober. But when it comes to my own children, I know I can't do it. I have to have somebody else do it, because I'm emotionally compromised. So that was fun. I enjoyed that. Normally, I would have somebody to the left and to the right of me to say, oh, what'd you think about that, Ben? Or, well, that was fun, Ben. Ben, any final thoughts? Ben? Dr. T? Anybody? No, that was fun. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you can always reach us, info@realrecoverytalk.com. Again, that's info@realrecoverytalk.com. And ultimately, we want to help you turn your mess into your message. That is it. We will see y'all later.